In western Sudan, Muslim Berbers caused the collapse of Ghana. This conquest did little to spread Islam. In the east, Muslim attacks destroyed Christian Nubian kingdoms. This opened up the Nile River for Islamic influence, except for Ethiopia, which stayed Christian. Instead of Ethiopia, Islam spread south of the Sahara. Takbur was one of the first sub-Saharan states to adopt Islam. Another Islamic state, Mali, had a great reputation for wealth. This was spread by its ruler Mansa Kanka Musa's pilgrimage, during which he put on a massive display of wealth with his entourage. After his pilgrimage, Musa built mosques and Quran schools in Mali. Mali later fell because of rebellions. Indian Ocean trade was, as the title showed, trade between countries bordering the Indian Ocean. In Africa, the Swahili coast supplied gold from Central Africa. The Swahili people were coastal people who shared a common language and culture built on African grammar. Zimbabwe and southern Africa grew in power from the gold trade passing through it. It is believed that it fell because of forest depletion. With the rise of sugar plantations in the West Indies, the demand for slaves grew. Most were destined for Brazil and Spanish colonies. This was the beginning of mercantilism and the Middle Passage. In Africa, Europeans did not capture the slaves. They would most often buy them from kings and merchants. The most common source of slaves for these merchants were from prisoners of war. Most of the slaves were men. In the 1700s and 1800s, there were slave revolts in the West Indies. The only successful one was the one in St. Domingo. Although complete abolition had not yet come, in 1807 Great Britain and the United States made importing slaves from Africa illegal for their citizens. Other Western nations followed suit by 1850. In terms of numbers, 850 slaves went to Muslim North Africa, and an equal amount went to Islamic Middle East and India. Unlike the Atlantic slave trade, most worked as soldiers and servants. Also, women made up the majority of the slaves. The leader Shaka created the Zulu kingdom during a drought in 1818. With their strict military drill and close combat tactics, they became the most powerful and feared fighters in southern Africa. However, as their influence grew, the populations of refugees also grew. These people formed into the Lesotho kingdom. Also, northern states neighboring the Zulu created the Swazi kingdom to protect themselves against the Zulu. Today, both the Swazi and Lesotho have survived. Muhammad Ali, not that one, ruled from 1805 to 1849 after Napoleon. He began reforms that created modern Egypt. When his son Ismail took over in 1863, he declared, "My country is no longer in Africa, it is in Europe." By 1870, Egypt had a new network of irrigation, 800 miles of railroads, a modern postal service, and a new capital city of Cairo. All of this modernization was great for Egypt, except it put it in debt, causing Egypt's partial occupation by Great Britain. Beginning in the 1840s, Ethiopian rulers bought weapons from Europe and also manufactured their own. The modernization was going well until Emperor Tewodros decided to hold British officers captive for more technological aid. Britain instead invaded Ethiopia until Tewodros killed himself. By 1870, France had conquered Algeria, and Europeans were beginning to explore the inner parts of Africa. This all anticipated the scramble for Africa.